the International Association of Coaching. Home of the coaching masteries.
Hi, and a very warm welcome to Vadis 2022. This is a flagship program to support all coaches and learners worldwide. And these dialogues become far more significant now because we seem to be going through a very interesting phase in coaching. Perhaps we are at an inflection point that invites us to craft the future of coaching through the lens of hope, innovation, and as global citizens, keeping humanity at the heart of these initiatives. So our topics this year has been specially curated to invite possibilities. With this spirit in mind, Vadis 2022 is a call to action for all of us to collaborate and co-create in focused communities. We wish to start IAC member forums in the areas of education and climate action. Both of these are topics that are so beautifully aligned to the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. So thank you all for joining in. Enjoy these sessions, and a very big thank you to all the wonderful panelists and moderators, the support team, and all the volunteers who bring in such amazing levels of passion and commitment and professionalism in making this happen. Welcome to Vadis 2022.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Good morning. How are you today? Are we starting now? Hi. So welcome to our session today. Before we start, I'm going to show you a slide on how to activate your language, your preferred language. And if you see underneath at the bottom, there's a menu where you have the icon of the world. And you have to click the icon in the language of your preferred language. And then you choose the language, and you will hear the original language in the background and the translation. You can also mute the original language. If you wish, you can cancel the translation at any time. So here, as you see the arrow, that's how you work it out. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And today, we're very honored to have this group of experts in education. And they are all over the world right now from, well, today they're going to be sharing with you their experiences, their stories, and their insights on how coaching has transformed education and their researches too. So we have Dr. Shan Murthy. He's our past president. He's a certified coach. We have Bonnie Chan. She's in Hong Kong. She's a master coach, and she's a partner and executive coach of the Silk Road and of the Silk Road Partnership. Sorry. And we have Dr. Sarah Howling, and she's in the UK. She's been an educator. She has a vast experience in education. She's a coach and a consultant. And we have Bonnie. Hold on, we have Patricia Hasni from Peru. She's a master's practitioner. They are all part of this organization. And Patricia also has a vast experience in the academic sector. So welcome everyone. And with nothing further to say, I will have Bonnie do the honors.
Thank you, Mark. Let me, okay, because I have a PPT, let me share my PPT first. Yes. Can you see my PPT? Is it on?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Great. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everybody, our dear IAC members, coaches, educators, and people development professionals. I'm Bonnie Chan from Hong Kong, and today's topic is transforming education through coaching. Before I talk about coaching, I'm very proud of each of us here, for we are being a human being on the earth. Why? Why you say that, Bonnie? Because we are the only creature with language. And because we have language, we can create knowledge and pass it on through generations, which is education. I like to borrow a quote from Kevin Eyre. He says, amazing things happen between people when the quality of the conversations is good. So coaching is emerging because we need quality conversations and quality relationships. And we hope to see amazing things happen for ourselves, others, the world, and the earth. So coaching is a kind of conversation helping us to focus, to review and explore our intention and further seeing other possibilities with clarity, so that we live our life with higher consciousness and acceptance. So I have several roles: an executive coach, I am an IAC certification examiner, a part-time instructor of corporate coaching in a university. But today, I would like to focus on my role as the co-founder of Coaching Cafe, and it is a charity coaching platform for the community. And today, I represent a group of passionate and caring coaches from Hong Kong to speak over here. We have a dream: one school, one coach. We think, what if each school in Hong Kong under the Hong Kong government education system hired a full-time coach in each school, including primary and secondary schools? We have an assumption, actually. We coach adults, right? Everybody coaching adults from all walks of. And we find coaching creates quality conversations and expand one's potential and possibilities. Could we bring this process earlier into our life stage when we are students? I think when I was a student, coaching was not existing yet. I don't want to disclose my age, but back to year 2000, when the time I learned coaching. So after I learned coaching, I immediately practiced coaching at home with my two children. At that time, they were 8 and 11 years old only. And I found they were well receptive to coaching. They have grown up now, of course. And my daughter always encourages me to keep on coaching and bring coaching to students and to schools. She gave me such a big dream. And you can see here when a group of coaching cafe coaches come together after some researches and brainstorming on the One School, One Coach initiative. Here is the flyer we formulated for sending to schools principals. However, due to the COVID, school activities organized by external parties are still restricted in Hong Kong. But more interesting is when coaches and educators come together, we try to think, we try to identify what's the benefit if we having the One School, One Coach dream come true. So we find the first things is students, they can improve their learning outcome and wellness, because students can have somebody really sincerely listen to them, listen to what they are doing now, listen to what they would like to be. So I think being listened is creating lots of wellness as a human being. And the second part, the second benefit we think could be the teachers, because teachers could learn coaching and improve soft skill in inspiring students on setting their goals and also taking action with clarity and also caring each other. So in short, inside the school, what happened? So that will be no matter teachers to teachers, teachers to students, students to students, they can create a ecology of peer coaching and supporting each other. So here I would like to show you a case. Actually, this is a real case in an international school in Hong Kong, where coaches from Coaching Cafe, we supported them in offering coachings to parents, not teachers, because in this school, the principal, she initiated to build a coaching culture in the secondary school. So first, what she did was giving coaching training to teachers and supporting staff. They hired a coach from UK and flew all the back to Hong Kong and giving training to teachers and the supporting staff. And then in turn, according to the needs, a group of teachers, they come together and then they designed a coaching program for students of the higher form and train them with the skill, with the mindset, with the skills, with the connectivities, being a coach. Although they're so young, they're just at grade 12 and 13, but they enjoy learning coaching. And more amazing is afterwards, they give coachings to their peers. And also they give coachings to the lower grade students. So here the pictures is showing that they have a school opening day, and a grade 12 girl student, she is introducing, explaining what's coaching to the lower form students, and also inviting them to come enjoy and being coached or learning how to coach. So it is amazing examples, but of course, our dream is one school, one coach. It is something too big. Even I cannot imagine what is this. So we need coaches come together to realize this. And then we find out that in Hong Kong, there is each school, for example, like primary school, there are one social workers. There are one social workers in one school, and there are 2 social workers in secondary school. And also the Hong Kong government are granting funds to school for all kinds of students and teachers development. So that means in the currently, there are social workers and counselor are working in schools. But we think, why that is not a coach? Because counselor mainly helping students to solve some emotions problem or learning problem. And social worker is more on facilitating the support, the resources in helping the students and also the families. So we argue that that's a missing part. And how about for students, they are not encountering any pain or highly difficulties. They just want to become having a clear goal. They just want to grow better. So we are suggesting, what if one school has one coach? And after this, we also come to review the realities that we coaches, are we ready if the school system is ready to accepting coach as a full-time staff in schools? And interesting that most of the coaches, they find out, actually coaches are preferred to work as an independent contributor instead of being employed. So we find out that is a gap. So if we really want many coaches in Hong Kong for school, are we ready? And also we also review that we might be lacking experience in the schooling system. So, and on the other hand, we also think that's a possibility if we are going to start this initiative, and then we will try to create some employment or quality assurance. So it's a challenge, but it's something we are foreseeing the needs from the future. And also we can collaborate to form a team, or because even coaches in school could have many different specialties. And the other thing is we really need to, because it's so new, so that we can advocate. There is lots of space, lots of opportunities for us to advocate one school, one coach in the ecosystem of the Hong Kong education system. So we identify we need some resources in order to work it out. We need funding, we need program, we need coaches, facilitators. We even need to know how to pitching because we need to pitch to the principal or the teachers or even the parents, and how to handling the stakeholders. So that create lots of thinking and get ourselves be prepared. And although I told you that our activities is now being held because of the COVID, however, many coaches, they already been exploring some pilot projects in education. For example, like here, we have activities is we train visually impaired coaches to become coach, because we had an assumption that listening is so important in coaching. Is visually impaired people, they listen better than us? So it's a challenge. And that's why a group of coaches, they came into meeting with visually impaired people. However, more important is nowadays visually impaired people, they are well educated. So eventually this initiative, we gathered 10 visually impaired coaches. Some of them were just students, university students, and some of them are mature executive managers, and they have good sight before, but because of some disease, so now they cannot see. And through this program, it's amazing that we can see visually impaired people not just learning to become a coach, because before many people has a perception that, oh, you are visually impaired, you are a help seeker. But we say, no, we transforming people from help seeker to helper. So you can see this brilliant young guy. I remember when I met him, he was just a university student, as young as maybe 20 years old. But now, maybe some of you know him, Merrick Ho. He is the IAC certified coach. At the same time, he is the IAC Hong Kong chapter leader, and he also helped the IAC headquarters coordinating the Greater China. So, and we co-authored a book while we work together, because we believe that coaching is no barrier on generations. So sometimes I also can ask Merrick to coach me, or maybe I coach him. So that is no age boundary, no generation boundary. And more important is because our love of coaching, and coaching helps people to find out their desired better person to be. And after we trained up this visually impaired coaches, it's amazing. They are contributing to the Hong Kong society. They are contributing to the education in Hong Kong. And here the picture I show you is the projects they've been involved in a primary school. So we try to give coachings to primary students, the grade 5 and grade 6. And then we have a strategy, a step-by-steps of doing that. At the beginning, we give an inspirational life talk, because when they come to see the visually impaired coaches, they just feel amazing. oh, how's your life? And and there must be lots of difficulties. They are being inspired by this wonderful young people. And afterwards, we create coaching workshops for them so that they can understand what's coaching about, what's about listening, what's about questioning. You can see these two little girls, they are just grade 5 students. They enjoy talking to each other. So they are conducting a quality conversation. You can see the joy from their faces and how the quality conversation creates the quality relationship. And imagine if this is not just two people, but it becomes everybody's enjoying the conversation, enjoying seeking their dreams and seeking their goal. And what happens if it become a culture? And after that, once they understand, we try to give them one-on-one coaching. You can find we caring about the confidentiality, even they're as young as just 10 years old. And however, we also caring about the not just one-on-one in a room, so that they feel safe in a gathering. So, and after the one-on-one coaching, and we also organize them to have the debriefing after the coaching, because we find it is so important for them to do reflection and also learning by listening to the other people's experience and learning what's coaching about, what's coaching experience they have experienced. And this is, we did it in 4 steps. And this is a feedback from students. They said they learn how to listen, and also they try to listen carefully. Or the people said they learn how to respect people, and how much coaching can help people, and how visually impaired coaches actually they help others even they cannot see. These are the feedback from the students. So this is just very short story, but I'm very pleased to, on behalf of the passionate coaches from Hong Kong, to just let you know what we did about education in Hong Kong. Thank you very much, Margarita. Back to you.
Wow, it's amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much, Bonnie. Now we're gonna have Sarah share with us her stories. Very inspiring presentation, Bonnie. Incredible story, Bonnie. Truly inspiring. That's what people are saying in the chat. People are saying thank you.
Hello.
And Marcela saying, Bonnie, it is interesting everything you tell us about your country with people who are impaired, visually impaired. However, they carry out the coaching session with no impediment. It's great what you're sharing with us. Thank you. That's what people are saying. So Sarah, are you ready?
I am ready. I am assuming that I can be heard. I'm not sure. It's the first time
I can hear you perfect.
You can, fantastic. It's the first time I've been part of a wonderful multilingual event like this. It's fantastic. Lots to learn. So if I share my screen, I am hoping now that can be seen. Yeah, okay, fantastic. So
yeah, perfect.
Wonderful, thank you. All righty, so first of all, thank you so much for welcoming today and to be part of this opportunity. Transforming education through coaching. And I'm going to ask a question, like all great coaches do, to start off with, because I am curious. When you think about this statement, transforming education through coaching, what comes to mind for you? In coaching, we spend time dreaming, visioning, visualizing, thinking about it. So my question for you is, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like if we were to actually transform education through coaching? Now, we could explore this at multiple different levels. We could explore it at world level, at country level, at system level. My goal today is to explore what the possibilities of this might be and actually can be and have been through my experience, both as a coach, a consultant, and a trainer, but I think really importantly as a principal. So I'm a former school principal, and I have been developing coaching cultures in school since 2011. And Bonnie, I'm noticing we've got a connection, because actually KG5 I started the coaching program at KG5 before I moved over to Argentina. So fantastic, thank you so much. It was wonderful to see that continuation of the work and the development of it. So first of all, why does education need transforming? Well, when we think about schools, I know when I think about my schooling, it looked something like this, with the teacher at the front, with the students sitting in rows, with teachers delivering education. But today's education really can't be in the same as it was in previous years. What point is that memorizing of those facts when actually we have that at the touch of a button? You know, we can Google, we can find that information. What we really want to be able to do is to support young people and adults alike make sense of the information. And what better tool to be able to do that than coaching? If we want to develop leadership, creative thinking, solution finding, resilience, and independence, and importantly, that lifelong learning, that Bonnie has already spoken about wonderfully today, we need to be thinking about learning and teaching slightly differently. And as Alvin Toffler said, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those that cannot read and write, but actually those that cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So we need to be thinking about how we can shift the role of the teacher more from the sage on the stage to being the guide on the side and back again, so they're able to move in and out quite seamlessly. So what I would like to do today is to think about what actually are those possibilities from a school culture level, a level of teachers, and also through the lens then of students. Because if the success of any school is built by those, millions of tiny human interactions that take place every day, as Bonnie has said, high quality communication and relationships, then coaching can be the life force that enables this. Quite often, if we think first and foremost about the whole school culture level, when we think about developing coaching in schools or in organizations or with people, we think about something, it's the skill set. We've already talked about the masteries, the IAC masteries today, and that's wonderful. We're talking about our ability to listen, no judgment, no blame. We're focused on insights and asking brilliant questions. Whereas actually, one of the things I would say from my experience in schools, to create a shift for young people and adults alike, we also need to be thinking about what I call the mindset and the heart set. Now, the mindset is where we look at every single person sitting in front of us in that constant positive regard, a totally outstanding person capable of amazing things. And the shift that we can see happen when you look at a young person or an adult through that lens is quite inspirational from a school perspective. That growth mindset, that idea that learning and growth is possible, and the belief in the other person, they are resourceful, they're creative, they're whole. And thinking about a young person as a whole can help us to move out of thinking about schools as exam factories or students as vessels to be filled, and more into that sense of building hope and possibility and resilience. And what I mean by heart set is the genuine compassion and the ethic of care for the other person, that sense of connection and relationship building. Now, my experience is in international schools. I've worked all the way around the world, from Hong Kong, Buenos Aires, Malaysia, and developed coaching cultures in international schools in all of those contexts and more over the last few years as a consultant. And even more, I think, than in an international school, that sense of community, that sense of togetherness, that sense of a home away from home is really, really important. And when all of these three elements are in place, when students can feel seen, heard, understood, and valued, when they know that they matter, because the quality of those conversations is really high, then they can flourish. And then that provides those foundations for even better learning. So that's the first level, whole school level. Then we talked about teachers, and Bonnie's mentioned this already today. Quite often when we think about bringing coaching to schools, we might think about perhaps the leaders having coaching themselves, or bringing in one coach as an instructional coach. Whereas one of the things that I would like to suggest is actually if we could train all teachers, I've got a bigger dream than Bonnie's perhaps, all teachers in terms of not perhaps as coaches, but in a coaching approach, then things can change. And this is actually what I did in my last school in Malaysia. So we trained almost all of our staff, and it's an ongoing process still, in coaching. So accredited qualified coaches who can bring that coaching approach to the classroom. But what that does, first and foremost, for the teacher perspective, is for them to be really thinking about their professional development, the self-directed learning, the ability to coach each other, to go in and out of each other's classrooms, to share best practice, which then leads to much more innovation. And that sense of innovation, there is that risk-free environment for them to be able to try something out, to fail, to try again. And innovation and creativity then improve dramatically in the classroom. And then also very closely to that is a sense of well-being for staff as well. Because when they see themselves being valued, heard, understood, their well-being increases, and that then brings a positive spiral. These are just some of the results that we saw from 2016 to 2018. So just 3 years in, this is a staff survey, and we can see improvements, 20% plus in some cases, in how teachers were feeling professionally recognized, supported, so that they can be the best that they can possibly be for the young people in the classroom. So what does that then mean for the young people in the classroom? Well, here, inside the classroom, first of all, for students, teachers then were able to generate a sense of growth mindset, of self-belief and resilience, because they were thinking a lot about the language that they were using. So they were, rather than asking, what can you do? They were bringing in that coaching language of the what ifs. What could you do? What might you do? And that little shift in language was opening up thinking for young people, as long with developing that sense of what if and the power of yet. Can you do that? Not yet. And that not yet is really important when we are helping our young people to develop. It also enabled young people to develop a greater sense of self-awareness, building their reflective practice. Teachers were no longer telling young people what to do. They were questioning, they were coaching, they were, through this process, leading to greater independence of thought. It also enabled them to think more deeply and more critically as well, generating that sense of criticality, because questions in the classroom no longer became about answering or finding the right answer. They became about making students think and deepening their thinking process, deepening their metacognition, building that learning power. So this is where coaching and learning can come really closely together when we are thinking about metacognition and building the learning power of young people. And in the same 3-year period that I mentioned a moment ago, the results went up in terms of academic results as well. The GCSE and the A-level results improved significantly through this. Outside of the classroom, there were substantial benefits as well, because what it enabled us to do was to think about behavior management, which can be seen as something, there's discipline, it's about punitive. And really what we wanted to do was bring coaching into this. So we brought a more reflective and restorative approach, so that we would sit down with students and we would lead them through a guided restorative practice where they were able to reflect, thinking about who had been affected, and then make reparations. So it really supported the values-based culture that we were building as well. And then also we trained students to be coaches. So we had a program, and this is huge now at my last school in Malaysia, and it happens in a range of different schools across the world. But when you train students to be coaches, as Bonnie has said, wonderful things can happen, because students, young people, will take to this so beautifully, and they will sit beside their peers and they will coach, and then sometimes they will mentor, but they build that reflective practice, and that they're able to actually really sit and think about, well, how am I in this situation? How might I be of service in this situation? Which again builds that positive spiral in terms of the culture. So when we think about this, and we think about this from a whole school lens, a teacher lens, and a student lens, what we end up with is this beautiful ripple effect, which actually starts in one school. But over time, when we step this out and we think about this in terms of education, that these are young people, when they become exposed to coaching at an early age, they can really become the change makers of the world, the change makers we need. And they also, importantly, start to think about being the best for the world rather than being the best in the world. And I think that's where the big changes can happen. And that's why I believe so passionately, and I've spent the last 10 years developing coaching in schools, both as a trainer, a coach, and also as a principal. Because I think, as Bonnie has said as well, believing passionately in the power of coaching and positive conversations to really transform education, but importantly, in the longer term, to transform the world as well. Thank you.
Mike.
Margarita, you're on mute.
Wow, Sarah, I'm sorry. I thought I had it activated. I had activated my microphone. Wow, it was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this, all of this experience, the best for the world instead of the best in the world. So what I'm going to do is invite the audience to start making questions right here in the chat, the Zoom chat. So we have time to, after you guys finish, to pass them on to you. Thank you, Sarah. So I'm going to have Patricia. Patricia, please do the honors. Thank you.
Gracias, Margarita. La verdad que apasionante.
Thank you, Margarita. Really, it's passionate, that passion we hear in Sarah and Bonnie, and the impact that could have, bringing a little bit of love and trust in the potential to organizations. And from that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what has been my trajectory within what it means, the world of educational coaching. As Bonnie said, sometimes saying that you, over 40 years ago, have a degree in psychopedagogy and dedicated to coaching over 14 years, I was always interested in how people learn. And in essence, coaching is that. It's a process of learning. It's resilient and constructive. Right after I finished my university, I was an assistant and dedicated myself to systemic family therapy. And I remember that when the kid got better, they brought him out on therapy, or probably a brother started having issues. And after an impasse where I decided to go out to the corporate world, I came back to becoming a teacher thanks to a teacher I had. And I imagined that all of you would have a teacher that inspired you in life and opened a world of possibilities to you. I had in my master's degree a marketing professor that saw in me what I had already forgotten. Thanks to that, I returned to teaching 22 years ago. My admiration towards David, my teacher, was that he made me see something that I was unable to see in myself. Even more, I don't even remember today what was that topic that he asked me to replace him at one point. I just know that at one point I was waiting for him to come back from a break, and in that eagerness to help him because he didn't come back, I went up to the stage to cover for him, and when the doors opened, I saw him at the end of the room giving me that signal that everything was okay. And up to date, that continues influencing me. It's not an experience far beyond time in 20 years ago, but in a way, this is bringing a sense that stays through time. As Carl Jung said, you remember with care, brilliant teachers, but with gratitude, those who touched our heart. A few years ago, when I still didn't know about coaching, I accepted the challenge of becoming a general coordinator of a civil association and NGO that promoted uh, educational inclusiveness of children with different abilities in regular education. And it was there knocking on the doors of ministries, and knocking on doors of schools to give them possibility to these children to be able to study, and that experience was going to be of learning, not only for them, but for the rest of the children in the rooms. I reinforced my belief that kids can do. And I started looking from a different place, not from those that say this is impossible, but from a place of what if we open a space for the others to declare that it can be done? So from there, I've been a college professor for many years, and I realized more and more that more than the answers, and this we all know that we're in the world of coaching, what matters is the questions. Questions that lead you to show yourself in your relationship with the world. And as I heard another day, a phrase that I want to bring to you, the more world you see, the world, the more world you go through. With this said, if I ask you, a teacher today, what is your job? Probably the answer is teaching. And if we do the analogy with soccer, if we ask a forward what his job is in a soccer team, it's scoring goals. However, the end means of all players in a football team is to win the game. The role, the task that each one performs within the educational system. So as an auxiliary, as an administrative, as a teacher, as a parent, that really, each of those has one single objective, and is for the student to learn. And as Sarah said a while ago, develop this growth mindset. I brought some data that I want to share with you, but before that, I would like to develop a little bit more what I mean with this. It's not right, from my perspective, to blame the teachers of the issues that really should be are due to how the school is structured. If a teacher states that not only dictates class, but in his hands is part of the future of a child, and that the experiences that they generate are going to make the people believe that through life they can go for more, they'll be creating these proper conditions for students to develop their full potential. So the concept that I want to strengthen here is that transcendent role of the teacher, which is showing life as a space full of possibilities. Many years ago, I've been hearing that the educational system is in crisis. And if we do a recount of the current situation and the achievements over the last 50 years, what we can get as a result is that if there have been some improvements in the scholarity indicators in primary school, there's a lot of gaps still in the quality of the regions that have lower levels of development. So the first data point I want to bring you is that close to 60% of students in high school in countries of mid to low and low rent abandon their studies before finishing high school. And why do they do this? There's a lot of reasons. One, the scarce relevance of the educational content, of course, economical difficulties, and also the lack of adequation of any method or pedagogy that the students actually need. So facing this, what would be the answer? What could we bring as questions here? Governments in general seem to be immune to these realities, so they prefer to stick to structures and curricula that were designed mid of the last century for other societies. I've heard countless numbers of recipes for educational methodologies, but I wanted to bring something to this table that we need to answer ourselves. All sectors in the educational community and coaches interested in working in education. And it is, why do we educate? Meaning, what do we want to achieve with this child, with this youth? How do we picture them? Today, we live in a world where vulnerability, humility, preparing people, like my colleagues used to say, for them to have that capacity of learning and letting go what they already know, it's very important to be able to remain in a world where we can live with arrogance, where we believe that the one that knows is the only truth and is the one that in a way will leverage is stay in the world, wanting to have the truth. So the greater question is, have we been able to, have we known how to create citizens for the world? Are we educating people to be happy, capitalizing on this unique contribution that will make the life of this person make sense in the world? Educational coaching, so if we look at it systemically, looks to provide for a better society, inciting on all the sectors of the educational systems, teachers, students, education centers, private entities, public entities, and even in the political space. I remember the times we have to sit down to be able to uh, comply with laws that in practice were not complied with. I remember a lot that one of the kids that worked with us in this program of educational and inclusiveness was able to uh, gain access to university, and in university they were terrorized because they took tests in secondary school and entrepreneurship exam. He was quite an entrepreneur. He had Down syndrome, but in that place he went through university, and once in university and college he managed perfectly the scientific calculator, but the teacher was set his mind that he had to do these formulas by hand. So there's another thing that I think it's important to bring up. It's something I read a few days ago, is that it said that from the 1st of March of 2020 until the 30th of April of 2021, more than 1,134,000 children experimented during the pandemic the death of their main caretaker. A question: who takes care of that pain of these children? Who takes care of the pain of the teacher? The teacher that's emotionally affected because of the cultural oppression that limits their bringing that knowledge, or because of the parents' scrutiny. So it would seem that we don't take much care of students with message double-sided that sometimes comes from directors and sometimes come from the family. It's not the case of Sarah, of course, but a director that tells a teacher innovate, but you have to continue following exactly this program. A parent that says respect my child, but I don't respect you. So let's say that the reflection, just to close on this part of the conversation, is that there's an exaggerated accent placed on the teacher, and my question is the child to learn. Do they always need a teacher? Does a child, when they're learning to walk and fall down, they don't cry because they think they are a failure. They just cry because it hurt. They get up and keep trying again. So Thomas Leonard, renowned as the father of modern coaching, says, coaching can only exist as long as you have a difference between a current reality and a desired reality. And the creative energy comes from an ambition of that which I want and don't have today. As an example, you can find in Google who was Martin Luther King. How does the teacher add value then? The teacher adds value when not trying to continue teaching concepts, but helping the children to make distinctions and therefore opening up the world. For example, learning the story of Martin Luther King is totally different from distinguishing how activism, nonviolent activism, can turn a person into an inspirational figure, or how to be faithful to your ideals even though when most people don't support you, and how to be aligned with your vision even when you're threatened and rejected. So to conclude, education needs to go back to its basics, which are the stimulation and the development of the being of children. Within this context, school, the universities, they should accompany the families to develop these autonomous adults that have a critical spirit, that relate effectively with other children, meaning education not only in the knowing and in the doing, so in the knowledge, in the put in practice of that knowledge, but also on the being. So educational coaching is not reduced to one class. It certainly brings distinctions that could improve, as we saw a while ago, all that's related to that interrelation of children, learning how to ask, learning how to understand their emotions. However, there's a topic in the background, meaning there's this concept of of the being substantially, and the other is of processing substantially. It means that we're a finalized substance. The other one says I'm process that can be perfected. I'm a fluid process. So what gives me value is not what I know, but my capacity to continuously learn and listen to those that have different arguments to mine. And that allows me to learn. From that place, my message, starting from the experience that I've had of what can be done, is finished by quoting an educator in Peru that I follow quite a bit, that's called Leon Trastenberg. And I'm going to quote because he speaks about humility as a bridge in education. And I think this is an important point to bring up. And what he says, sorry, I'm going to read it. The greatest death of the greatest idea happens when its inventor falls in love with it. The death of every great student happens when he believes he's the smartest one in his class and has nothing to learn from the others. The death of all teacher happens when they fall in love so much of the sound of their own voice and stops listening to the voice of the students. And the death of every great director happens when they believe that they're the only one that can move the school forward and stops listening to students, teachers, and parents who they serve. From that place, I would like to close with a phrase, and it's not mine, of course, the phrase, but I really liked it. And it's from the poet William Butler Yeats that says that education is not about filling up a bucket, but to lighting up a fire. That's what I had to contribute to you today. I hopefully it helps you.
Patricia, thank you so much for sharing this story about your life. And people are saying that you really touched their hearts. deep down. And thank you so much for sharing all your journey, Patricia. Now we're gonna have Shan share with you his experiences.
Thank you, Marge. Thank you. And, it's just inspiring listening to all my fellow colleague speakers, and you're just inspiring. So I'd like to share what are the things that we have done here in this part of the world, and how to bring coaching into the education. When I looked at the title itself, transformation, and I think we need to distinguish, or I told myself I needed to distinguish between change and transformation. And it has been clearly stated in our mastery number 7, helping the client set and keep clear intention. So change, like, it fixes the past, but transformation, we create the future. So and I said that, I'm looking at a lot of things, and one of them, and I like to give credit to Dr. Sarah, where I was honored to visit a school when she was in Malaysia. And she was just inspiring how the whole school was embracing coaching culture. And we have done some work in the education sector. And let me share with you some of the things that we have done. Yeah. So, okay, you can see my slides. Yep. Okay. So this is some of the I just brought some random pictures. If you see on the top left, is we were invited to Uzbekistan. They wanted to partner with for the educational reform. This is for the presidential schools. So before we were invited there, we did an online, this is during COVID, and then we did an online program for their educators and also for their students. So they experienced it and they found it was helpful. And we were invited to give a talk. And at the round table, we had universities like, MIT, we had Cambridge there. And at the end of the day, in the round table, all of these educational institutions did agree that coaching is important for any form of transformation or reform. And on the right-hand side, you can see the university professors. We were sharing coaching competencies for university professors so that they can then use coaching in their universities. And later this year, we did one for a group of people. These are all ex-vice chancellors of universities. And they were tasked by the Ministry of Education to coach the future vice chancellors of public universities. And they embrace coaching. And not only to look at how they can mentor them as well, but at the same time, use coaching for them to become better vice chancellors of universities. And students, university students, we did another stint for universities in Myanmar, where we encourage the educators to embrace coaching. While we were doing corporate program, but we were saying that this is so important to bring coaching at a very young stage in the educational institutions. This was a big project in one of the states. We called all the principals of schools, and we did a project with them. And what happened was all the schools in the state of Sarawak, if you know Malaysia, is in the island of Borneo. And we had about 50 teachers going through an online program during COVID. Yeah. And then applying this to their students. And we had some wonderful results from it. Yeah. So, and this institution is called Institute Aminuddin Baki. Their mission is to improve performance of headmasters of school. And we were so happy that they started embracing coaching and the IAC masteries in their curriculum so that they can use coaching as one of the approaches to develop the performance of headmasters in schools. So this is one of the success stories. It's amazing because before this, they were there, telling them, sharing their experiences, telling them how to improve. But now they're coaching them, and amazing results have been coming up from these exercises. And this year, we started to bring the coaching masteries, the IAC masteries, to Indonesia. We had about 6 universities in Indonesia were invited because I was doing this program for the Faculty of Psychology of University of Tarumanagara, Jakarta. And they invited universities, about 5 universities, and they brought all the educational leaders and also educators. And we spoke about coaching. And it was just encouraging because now they're beginning to see how coaching is so important in the education sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm just sharing, some of the work that we have been doing. There's no real empirical research has been done, but we've been talking, and the president, Anjali Nair, was just talking to me a few weeks back, and the IAC is going to embark on a global research in the education sector. And I hope all our fellow speakers here, will jump in and be part of the team. And let's do some empirical research. I think research is important to convince people that coaching works. In my case, most of the thing is feedback and feedback and from the students and feedback from the teachers. No empirical research has been done yet. Okay. This is something that we did for about 200 students, fresh graduates, sponsored by the Ministry of Education and some of the government institutions. And some of the program takeaways was clarity in one goal, knew how to achieve their goal, gain knowledge on self-coaching, not only being coached, but self-coaching, realize the requirement to succeed, increase self-awareness, focus on the future, being more solution-focused and not to be more problem-centered. So this was one of the things. And these are some of the research that I found in the Asia Pacific region. If you can see, this is from Australia, and they did the research and bringing out the best, building skills, confidence to nurture learning, powerful technique of listening and questioning. Yeah. So one more. There's another one. Yeah, this is another one. And people are getting motivated. Yeah, sorry. Motivated, feeling empowered, getting their own solution. This is a case study in New Zealand. 87% they were more confident, better listeners. And I think that, when we had all the panel members here share, you can see it is so important. And the impact of coaching is universal everywhere. It's the same. People are getting more confident. People are, are being listened to. And there's another case study in an Australian school, again, being aware of their own strength. Yeah, so I just picked up some of that. And this is another project that we did for 400 young graduates in Malaysia, sponsored by Microsoft, organized by Junior Achievement. And we had the feedback from the students after 15 to 20 sessions. And some of the main things that emerged from this was they felt they were listened to. They were able to express their thoughts. They gained clarity and they gained confidence. So this was from this project. And as probably all of you all would have heard this, the learning concept, pedagogy, yeah, the sage on the stage, andragogy, a facilitator, heterogogy, self-determined learning, peeragogy, learning from peers, peer-to-peer, co-creating, cybergogy, using the internet, using the cyber world. Now, whatever the learning concept is, I believe that coaching is an important element because it gives you clarity in whichever learning concept you're going to use. It gives us clarity, and especially in heterogogy, self-determined learning, you gain more clarity, or the students, to what you want to learn, what's important for you. Yeah, and for me, again, all these concepts are important. It all depends on when you want to use which type of technique or approach. But I think coaching adds value in all these different learning concepts. And I would like to share this. In education, it's not only about the academic world, it's not only about the academic knowledge to gain knowledge and skills, but the most important thing, when I did a small study on why leaders fail, why self-leadership fail, an average of 65% of them say leaders fail because of attitude, not because of knowledge or skills, because of 3 components in competencies. Yeah? So And I was looking at all the things that's emerging after coaching programs and after people create coaching culture. Number one, on the left-hand side, if you see the 5 A's, the roots is Malay words from my country, and the roots are from Arabic. Amal means practice. When you start practicing enabling approach in learning and developing people, not only in the academic world, yeah, what happens is that there is an impact on their character. Akhlak is their character and morality. And that has got impact on their adab, the manners, the etiquette, the behavior. And that has got a very big impact on the adat, the culture. And this gives rise to close relationship. When we talk about close relationship, there's intimacy, there's love. Human beings loving each other, human beings connecting to each other. And I think that education is just not, learning knowledge, but it's more than how are we going to be a human in this world that we love and, temporary maybe, but to enjoy living in this world. And I think coaching can contribute to better relationship, to a better person, wherever we are in the world. So that's a little bit of sharing from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shan, for all the information you share with us. Wow, it's leaders fail because of attitude. That's what I take. That's true. So true. Well, now it's the questioning time right now. So for Sarah, hold on, I have this in Spanish. I need to translate it. It's how to make teachers that are in their comfort zone really engage into training for coaching and to take it to students. That's for you, Sarah.
Okay, great question. And I think I think the answer, there's multiple levels to the answer. First of all, by demonstrating data and research, and Shan, really interested in the fact that you were talking about launching a research project for the IAC, because there's so much research in education and coaching, and I would love to be able to contribute to that. So first of all, the data and the research that sits behind it, so convincing and bringing them on there. Actually allowing them through the training to experience coaching. And I think that's when we start with coaching with adults first, because we know that when we experience coaching ourselves, we can see the power of it and the potential of it and the possibilities, which then means that we're able to connect that a little bit with what might that look like in the classroom. And I think also seeing the gap. So seeing the gap and noticing when students might be disengaged, when the approach that we're trying at the moment is not working with them, how do we reach them academically or pastorally? And then that impetus there to fill the gap. So noticing that, reflecting that, engaging people, but also just trying to build that coaching approach around the whole school, which then cocoons people in that ability to think slightly differently alongside the training is really important. So data, experiencing coaching for themselves, being cocooned by coaching within the environment, and then also being able to spot the gap and have conversations around the gap. And it builds organically, I think, over time, and people get brought along by the power and the potential of coaching. But start small and then grow.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I have another question for you, Bonnie. From everything you say about the visually impaired, and how will this change the school levels curriculum? Since the group is going to be there. I'm sorry?
Can you say it again?
Yeah. About what you said, the one coach, one school, one coach. And how would this change the school levels curricula? How would this move the curriculum? Right. In all levels.
Okay. I'm not sure at this stage, because the one school, one coach is a dream, is a movement. I think it might take years years to realize that. However, I think during the process is more important, because no matter we are coaches, principals, teachers, I think we are all human beings. So I can foresee there must be lots of difficulties in this journey. Yet I think through the journey, I'm looking forward to having more rapport among people, more respect, and more trust among people. Putting soft skill into the school curriculum, I cannot say anything, because this must be the work of the Minister of Education. However, I think if our mindset, as Sean said, the attitude and our curiosity, the level of all these things, if it change, I think amazing things will happen. So I don't know whether I answered the question, because it's a long movement for coaches in education. Thank you, Margarita.
That was a question made by me, though. It's just really caught my attention. And another question for you, Bonnie, is how, as a coach, how do you get prepared for primary levels?
A coach to get prepared to get into education? Okay.
No, to coach primary levels, but primary level students.
Level. Okay, good questions. Right. So we were new in doing that as well. And actually, in turn, we find amazing is how receptive of the student age around 10 to 11 receiving coaching. So I think we underestimate the potential of our young people, even they are so-called primary students, because I find primary students, they are much more curious than we adult. And actually, they have lots of ideas. Their ideas maybe before they speak out already being abandoned, maybe because of the structure of the nowadays. Well, so just give them the opportunity to be listened, to be bold to speak up, regardless right or wrong, because I think the matter is not right and wrong. The matter is communicate, is exchanges, and we are caring about each other. We do not need to agree with each other every time, but we can have the ability to distinguish what's the difference and how we can work in the together in a gap in the many different style ways. So this is how I look at coaching. Coaches could get prepared for coaching really young people at as low as the age of 10. And maybe I assume there are many parents over here. I started coaching by coaching my daughter and then my son when they were 8 and 11 years old. I think when the first time I changed my speaking style from instructing or telling to asking a question, I think they opened up their eyes. At the very beginning, they don't know how to answer my question, but I just keep silence and give them space to think, because they don't answer immediately, because they need to do some thinking, because they want to own the conversation. They don't want to say something right, please the mother. I think that their behavior or what happened that I can see, I observed what they did really inspire me as a mother. Am I speaking too much? And since then, I tried to listen more while I was still learning my coaching. And I would say, Margarita, even today, I'm still learning how to listen better. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. So am I. Okay, thank you so much. Patricia, there's a question for you. How would it be to you an inclusive education? I'm translating it so that the teacher could answer the needs of the context.
Bien.
Very well. There's something that we did each time we knocked on the doors, and as Sean was saying, what we came with was investigation and empirical proof that confirmed that the fundamental thing is not that the environment or the system, the educational system, has to change to include, but the other way around. The system has to change not to exclude. And so from that place, we often talk about love, which is an act of trust, and trust is the fundamental for our living and our interactions with them. So what we found the teachers very much alone. We found teachers in public schools with 50 students in the room, and this quota of students with different abilities, and the tiers were collapsed. So we have to be empathetic, give them tools as well to understand what the objective of their work is, which is not normalizing the child. It's not normalizing them. It's how do you promote learning of the rest of the children, of these differences, learning to live with diversity. And just in short, particularly we brought a student who's an educator that has Down syndrome, and he came to talk. And he said that there was a lot of parents that said that they didn't want their kids to study with a Down syndrome teacher. So he got there, but society didn't accept them. So I think there's a lot of work to be done. And again, in defense of the teacher is part of the system, and the system has to support the teacher.
Very Thank you, Patricia. Very enlightening. Shan, there's a question for you. How can the IAC influence in coaching so that we are still not only knocking on doors, but we have more impact in education?
Thank you for that question. I've been always say, and before that, let me stay in Malaysia. That is our daughter Isabel. She's a preschool Montessori teacher. She's a coach. She uses coach with 4 years old, 5 years old. And we got another school, preschool. They've got 4 of them as certified coaches. And they're not only coaching the young ones, they're also coaching their parents. Especially when the parents get worried, so in the school. Okay, coming back, one of the things that, if you can, the things that I shared with you, how we managed to go into all these different areas to influence coaching is number one. And I think that the IAC, the schools, the accredited schools need to work with the chapters, and members of the chapters, they come from different places, right? And we can provide pro bono coaching, or like in Malaysia, some of the initiatives which you saw, which I showed, were actually done together with the IAC Malaysia chapter. So if we start giving this awareness program, we start working together and provide schools training, because if it's not in the curriculum, the education institutions will not give you a budget for coaching. But if we can start doing a lot of this CSR work and CSR project, like what Bonnie is doing, and start to influence, and I think it definitely will get to a stage where teachers training college or universities will include coaching as one of the subject or module in the teacher degree course. And that is something, for me, that is a dream in Malaysia, to include coaching the IAC way in the teachers training school, and also there's a university that provides teachers degree courses. So I think it is getting into the community, serving first. I always believe in give first, and you can see magic happens. And I think that's the IAC way. That is IAC values, and that's our spirit. That's our family.
Excellent. It's awesome what all of you are doing from all the places you're in, from all the geographies you live in. So thank you so much, panelists. I don't know if the audience has any more questions. This is the last minute that we're gonna be taking them, but they are saying that they are very grateful for sharing, for the way you shared your experiences and everything they learned from you. And so I'm looking for questions right now. Just can't find, but Pat, they say confidence is a principle of our getting along. That's what Pedro says. Okay, well, I think this is it. Thank you so much for your participation. And really, we are inspired by trying to get involved into that world of education, because we are educating the next leaders. So thank you so much. Wonderful to have you here. Everybody, thank you for participating. And please remember that tomorrow we start at the same time, and we're gonna be waiting for you here. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day and night for those of you.
Thank you, Mash. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Margarita, una foto, invita a abrir cámaras.
Okay, now can you please open up and activate your camera so that we can shoot a picture from all of you, from all of us. DJ.
Amazing. Turn off your cameras. 1, 2, 3. First screenshot. Second screenshot. Immortalize amazing day. Thank you, family.
The International Association of Coaching. Home of the coaching masteries.